Thank you, Jerry, and it's a pleasure to be with you here on the digital audio today. I got to say to start, there's a lot more to video conferencing professionally than might meet the eye. It's like walking into a Ross and then walking into a Nordstrom. They're both clothing stores. You have different things on the racks. But the clothes brands might even be somewhat the same, but the experiences are completely different. So any one of us can video conference. Any one of us might chat with friends. And so that's what I'm going to talk about is what is that distinction to give, if you will, a Nordstrom style speech online. Now I'm breaking a rule right now, and I'll get to that on backgrounds. And I'll tell you now some of the things I might say as rules. There's some things that we're learning on what is best practices. So I've been on probably over 100 Zoom calls since this quarantine. So it's helped for me to learn things that I didn't like as an observer or things that may have worked well as a presenter. So that's where I'm sharing from a little bit of experience there. So you may want to prepare to take notes. Pull up Notepad on your screen, Microsoft Word, OneNote, whatever you like, or have a scratch pad next to you. And afterwards, if you want me to share even my outline to refresh your memory on some of these, because I'm going to cover a lot of things in this time. So the first thing is to think of it like if you're doing a live speech, there's a lot of things that we actually take for granted. We go into a room and there's a podium ready for us, and in certain cases there's audio set up, there's visual, maybe a projector's already set up, and those are all things that typically we may have to think about, or maybe a technology person has done for us already, and those are important. And there's things that need to be tested. And is the temperature right in the room? Is it large enough for our audience? And so all those things are still relevant in the digital realm. Some applications support only a certain audience size. Obviously for smaller groups, the vast majority of them will accommodate that, but we need to take those things into account. Now, we don't need to manage the temperature of everyone's room, fortunately, that they get to, but there are still other aspects that we need to look at when it comes to professional presentation. So, and part of that is the communication. And when you say, hey, there's going to be a meeting that's going to be happening at this location at this time, well, you want to do the same thing with your video conferences. I got an invite recently, and it says that here's the time of the event, and here's the topic. Where's the link? So you want to provide that up front whenever possible. Now, sometimes you can create a calendar update or email them after the fact, but it's usually best just to have that prepared. Most meeting softwares will allow you to get that link and provide it in advance. And whether that provides a meeting ID, a password, or just a link, the link's usually going to be the easiest. And we'll get a little bit more into the applications and what to look for in that. But the idea here is that you want to maintain a certain mindset. There's a casual and a professional on using, even though you're using the same platform. You might use Zoom to talk to family. You might use Zoom to talk with friends. But then we're here now, and the idea is more of a professional context. So you have to switch that mindset. Whereas in reality, if you're in someone's living room, you're chit-chatting with them, your behaviors, your dress, your attire, your things like that are going to be different than if you're meeting in a business conference room. And so you want to keep that in mind, that it may feel more casual, and in some cases we can. I know with my coworkers that report up to me that they are dressing down, they may have just a t-shirt on, and that might be okay with our context. But as you can see here today, I put on a button-up shirt because there's still the engagement, the professionalism, the impact that there are still these subtleties that the human nature has in judging the presentation of a presenter, whether that's digital or whether that's live. And so you want to still keep that the same, keep some sort of professional attire. When you're the presenter, again, being sensitive to your group. If I'm doing it with just my immediate team, I know we're all casual, then that may not be an issue, but you do want to think about whether that's appropriate or not. Now, when it comes to technology, there's part of you need to understand what you're using. Have you tested it? A lot of these technologies, you can invite your own self. Go on the computer, invite yourself on the phone, see what that experience is like. Take an application, whatever application it is, whether it's Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Skype, or there's a myriad of others, GoToMeeting, I forgot the other one. But there's all sorts. Oh, there's one like Blue Jeans I just heard about. It's almost identical to Zoom, but costs a little less. So you could go explore these different applications, and you want to see what the experience is like, a little bit at least, in a phone versus computer mode, and you should check whether it is cross-applicable on different platforms. What I mean by that is Google Hangouts, Duo, Hangouts, I don't think works on Apple products, but Duo does. Duo is also a Google product. But FaceTime is Apple exclusive. So you can't really host a good meeting off of that. So a lot of the things I'm going to talk about are features that are in the more popular business applications. So Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and GoToMeeting are some of the top applications that businesses are using, or Skype as well. So have you tested it? You want to test it. You want to see what the experience is like before you use it. And the reason why I say focus on one application, because for those of you who aren't as technologically proficient to figure things out on the spot, you want to pick one to get really good at, so that that's your mode of presenting. And so you might select that based on what your team at work is using most frequently, and that might be the application for you. Now, when it comes to screen sharing, you have different options on a lot of these applications where you can share a screen or you can share an application. And some of us don't realize there's a difference. And so when you share a screen, that means whatever's showing on is what will display to everyone. And I think that's the more intuitive one that most of us have, but sharing an application is less intuitive. In fact, my boss accidentally was screen sharing with me the other day, a software that we use to build reports, and he's clicking drop downs and filters, and I can't see any of those because he was sharing the application. And sometimes there's limitations to that as far as how the application was designed. Whether you're going to see those pop-ups and drop-down lists and things like that, you're going to see, it might miss something. But on the other end, it might provide some safety. So when you're just sharing the application, you know nothing else can pop up and come in the way, which kind of leads me to the point. You may want to close other things out. If you're the presenter, I've seen it where someone's messages are popping up, their notifications, and guess what? That stuff's also taking up computer resources, and computer resources matter. Now, I'm going to get to that in a moment as far as understanding how the impact to maintain high quality of your experience on technology. And so we'll get back to that in a moment. Now let's talk about digital backgrounds. Now, digital backgrounds are really cool. The upside of it is you've got a messy room, or you feel self-conscious about what's behind you, and you get to sort of shut that off and put whatever you want. You can be at the beach and, or should I say, be at in the, how you say, outer space, or turn on the beach, whatever seems fanciful to you. Now, the reason why I said I was breaking the rules earlier with this one is because it's a dark background. Generally, you're going to want lighter backgrounds. Also, as you notice that going around my face, I got a lot of disappearance and weird gobbledygook. It's somewhat of a distraction. Whereas if I choose this background, it's a little less noticeable where my body's being cut out on it or not. And then some things are just straight up too busy. It's like you don't want to look at the screen. Now, the matrix is really cool. And again, there are some things good for one-on-one with fun with friends or other conversations, but you really want to keep that, stay away from that. And if you could go with no background, sometimes, now obviously my background, my bedroom, not the most professional background, but it also eliminates the distraction of everything else. And I think some people are going to be more welcoming to that. So as far as, you know, we're all in a room of some sort, and there's going to be things, we didn't set up a studio. But why not? You know what? Let me talk about that. There are things that we can do now that we couldn't do before from a studio standpoint, even when we're dealing with digital backgrounds. I even just have been shopping online recently to buy a green screen. You go, what's good for a green screen? Well, when I'm talking about this gobbledygook of going on the screen where my image is not really separated of me versus my background, well, if I had a green screen, that actually would help a lot. Well, things like green screen and light diffusers, so you get good lighting on your face, those things used to cost thousands of dollars. I just saw a kit online on Amazon for $150 to get 3 light diffuser stands, and that's basically a light bulb that doesn't beam light, but it causes the light to go evenly across things so you can't tell where it's coming from. And it came with a green screen stand, and even you may think of it, if you do it like a curtain or something in your room, you could just have it go in and out or take it away. So there are ways you can increase professionalism, especially if you're doing a lot of on-screen meetings. And by having that green screen, it can help. So you have to pick the style. You have to make sure that it's not cluttery and distracting. A simple background is going to be best. And if you can actually have no background, that might actually be preferable in many cases. But let's go away from video, because quite honestly, video is secondary. Have you ever been in a meeting where the video is working perfectly, or even a movie? Imagine a movie, video is perfect, but then the audio cuts out. Like, that is frustrating. If you can't hear me consistently, you're gonna just want to give up. You're like, oh, I can't wait till this call is over. But I venture you this, you'd even enjoy a movie that has cutting out video if you can hear the audio perfectly fine. So audio is probably the foremost, most important thing when it comes to digital conferencing. In as much as we like to see each other's beautiful faces, that's secondary to whether we can hear your wonderful voice. And so there's a couple of things that help enhance that experience. So one, just like it was a perfect example, I had this in my notes. Sometimes people have bad connections and need to disconnect and reconnect. And sometimes that's the simplest fix. I don't know why it happens, but sometimes just a reconnection helps. And usually it's not, for whatever reason, I've noticed a pattern in technology, it doesn't come up a second time. So as far as once you reconnect, but get a headset. You know, when you have your microphone on and your speakers on, you may be causing feedback you're not even aware of, and everyone's getting screeching in their ears. But headsets also help with the audio quality. You got to ask yourself too, in a lot of these conferences, if you can't hear the audio, your computer, your internet may not be great. I recommend calling in. A lot of these apps, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, always have call-in numbers. Some of the apps may not, but the main ones do. Call in with your phone if your phone's going to be a better connection than your computer, and then you can use your phone headset to do what I'm doing here. And, you know, obviously do what you can manage. Background sounds, I get behind me the gardener and the truck backing up to pick up the trash can from my apartment unit every Tuesday and Thursday. I got lucky right now. And squeaky chairs, you know, I don't know if you can hear it. I have some noise canceling on my headphone, but I need a new chair. It's squeaking, and that could be really bothersome because that might be louder than my voice. Lightly mentioned noise cancellation, but that's going to be critical. Last thing is, getting towards the end here, reliability issues. You know, when I talked about closing applications, your experience, your computer's ability to transmit data may have a lot to relate with everything else you have open. Again, those notifications, you want to close those out because then you'll have disruptions in your video. So turn off if you have a lot of issues, a lot of people on the call, turn off your video and keep your applications updated. Master one application, know it. And for those of you, I'm not going to get into it, but there's security, there are hack participants, encryption. And if you really get to that advanced, that's probably not for the average user on for today. And last thing is, you can have notes in front of you. You don't realize I've actually had my notes right in front of my face this whole time, reading off of them so I can do that. And guess what? I get to be just as good as any politician out there now on this video screen. So I'm going to leave it at that. I've given you more than enough, went over my time. Thank you, David. Thank you for everyone for taking on that. And hopefully that's helpful. And I'd be glad to share with you my notes after that so you can do the best you can to enhance your environment.